welcome back to part 15 of how to create an endless runner using Unity and C#. Today we're going to be going over the power-ups a little bit more and improving them. But before we do that, also adding another one. But before we do that, there's one little change I made since the last time, which is I just chucked in another sound effect. So I just created another sound effect like we did in part 13 with BF XR, XR, and I imported it in, and I made it so that it plays whenever we hit our power up. So now we get that little sound. So if we just come into our script, I'll show you what I did. All I did was add a new audio clip, which is our power up sound, and just like where we did our one shot for our coin sound, I'm just doing a one shot for our power up sound whenever we get power up. Cool. So now that we've got that, we'll start with the main episode. So to begin with, I'll show you one little thing. So if we grab our coin magnet and we duplicate it, and then we try to collect it, we won't be able to. Well, we'll be able to collect one of them, but not the other one. And the reason for this is because in our script, we are setting our coin magnet as just one game object. So we need to do the same thing we're doing for our coins, where we have an array of magnets, and then, like we do for our coins, we need to go through each coin in that array and check the distance between the player and the coin. But instead we need to do it for our coin magnet, so we need to make a new array of coin magnets. So it needs to be objects, not object. And then that gives us an array of coin magnets. And then we'll just copy our for each from here and put it down in here and put our brackets in. Actually, first just clean this up a little bit. Just tabbing them all over. There is a way to tab multiple at once, but I can't remember how to do it. Okay, so we'll chuck in our bottom bracket first, just because we're here. Come up to our top one. And cool. So now we just need to change over this to magnet, and change this over to M. And then down here, we need to change these over to magnet instead, because M is our array, but we want to be just dealing with our magnet, so that's this part here. So just change these over. Down here, where we're just finding the game object of a tag, that won't work anymore, because that is finding an instance of one object, but we have multiple objects. So we can just get rid of that. And then the same as what we're doing up in this for each, to delete, we're just going to use the same. So destroy, and here we're using coin because that's what we're pulling out of our array of coins, is a coin, well, multiple coins. But down here from our array of magnets, we're pulling out magnets. So we need to change this to magnet. Dot game object, and then that should be all for that. So if we just save that up, come back into our scene, press play, we should be able to collect both of them. So now we can have multiple magnets in our scene, and so I'll just run you through that again quickly. All we did was change our the way we were finding the magnet in the scene from finding one magnet to finding an array of magnets. And then instead of checking the distance between our one magnet and the player's object, we've just put a for each loop in, which just says for each magnet that we find, check the distance between that and the player. And that way we can collide with multiple magnets. Which is going to become more important later on when we have the power-up spawning in randomly in random spots and stuff. So yeah, it's just good to get that in now. So now that we have that, we can just come back in and delete one of these magnets. and then we'll get started on our coin magnet. Seeing I've already showed you how to make texture art, I'm not going to show you how I've made this one because it's the same as the last, but I've just made a new texture in Piskel, so I'll just drag it in and resize it. And drag it into our scene and resize it up here. And you can see it's just a 2 with an X. Because that's the next power up we're going to add. It's just going to be a 2 times. So whenever we get this, coins will be have a value of 2 instead of a value of 1. So it should be a pretty simple power up to add. So we just need to go into our coin script, seeing this is another power up that is affecting the coins, and get started in here. So adding the coin magnet is going to be pretty basic. All we really need to do is over here where, not the coin magnet, the ×2 on the coins. Over here where we were checking if the player has collided with a coin, and if we were colliding with a coin, we were just sending 1 into our coins. We just need to make it so that if we collide with a coin, we send 2 into our coins. So we will just come up here and copy these variables, and change this one over to coin ×2, and change the timer over to coin ×2. The reason why we want the timer for the coin magnet and this power up is because we might want to have both of them active at the same time, but they will be running off different timers because they will be ending depending on when we started them. So we need 2 timers for that. So now that we have our ball though, that just checks if our coin ×2 is active, we can come back down into here and just add an if statement, which just says if our coin ×2 is equal to false, because if we don't have that power up active, we obviously only want it to be equal, our coins to be equal to 1. So then we'll just put a bracket at the bottom of that. So now that's all happening in there. But we just want to add an else statement. So the else statement is just saying, well, is relative to this. So it's just saying, if our coin magnet is equal to false, do this. But if it isn't equal to false, do whatever's down here. So down here, we're just going to copy this, paste that in there, and just change that over to 2. Cool. So that's like the main body of our coin magnet, but we still need to find them in the scene, and we still need to check if the players interacted with them. So to do that, we need to have a new array, but instead of being an array of magnets this time, it's going to be an array of ×2s, so we'll just go ×2, and it won't be looking for that, it'll be looking for coin ×2, which will be a tag that we need to set up in a second. 1 sec, I just need some water. Yeah, so yeah, now that we have that, we can come down and just copy this, because this is where we're checking if there is a coin magnet, and if there is one, how far away is it from the player, and and turning it on. But so we need to do the same thing, but instead we need to do it for our ×2. So we'll come in and change this from the magnet array to our ×2 array, and then change our for each to our ×2 array. And instead of getting magnet objects out of it, we want to get coin ×2 objects out of it. So we're not checking the magnet, we're checking the coin ×2. And we're deleting the coin ×2. And we're not turning the coin magnet on and off, we're turning the coin ×2 on and off. Cool. We still want to play the same power-up sound, because it's still a power-up. But that should be all we need for that part. Now we just need to deal with the timer. So if we come up to where we have our timer for our coin magnet, we'll just copy this. and do the same thing. We'll just change it all over to the coin times 2. But it's called coin times 2. Oh no, yep, it's a timer part here. It's called like this. C. So just change all of the instances of timer to this. And then down here, and one last. Cool. So that should be our coin magnet fully working. All we're doing is we're checking if the coin magnet is equal to false, we do the normal thing. But if it isn't equal to false, we'll make them equal to 2. And the way we make it equal anything that isn't false is we're just checking for every single coin times 2 object in the level, how far is it from the player. If the player collides with it, then destroy that object because we don't need it anymore, and set our coin magnet to, our coin times 2 to true if it was equal to false. So we'll just save that and come into our game. And then we need to come to our coin times 2. We'll just change its name and give it its tag that we just created. The one we assigned, in the script. We're going to create it first, then assign it in the inspector. So coin times 2, and give it that tag. And now if we press play, and collide both of them, you'll see our coins now have a value of 2. And when our coin magnet runs out, sorry about the audio being really, really loud. So yeah, when our coin magnet runs out, our coin times 2 runs out as well. I'm just going to fix up that audio a little bit. So if we just come down to our camera, where is that? And come to our audio listener. We can't actually change it there. So we need to come over to our UI controller and change its audio source's volume. Let's go to 0.4. Let's see what that's like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Cool. So yeah, now we have that working. We will work on spawning them randomly at the start. We'll just do it at the start to begin with, but yeah. So we're actually going to need a different script for this. So we'll just create a new script, a new C# script, and we'll just call it Powerup Spawn. And so basically, we are going to have game objects. So we'll create a new game object, and we'll just quickly name it. Powerup Spawn point. And then if we just drag this down and put our script on it. Where is it? There. So basically we're going to have these wherever we want the power-up to be spawned. And all it's going to do is it's going to check which power-ups we've unlocked, because we have the money system. We're going to put a store in eventually, and that will allow you to unlock power-ups and to level them up. So we'll check which ones are unlocked, and then it will spawn one of the ones that is unlocked randomly in its position. So, seeing we don't have any of the store stuff done yet, we're just going to say all of them are unlocked, and we're going to be checking the unlocked way in a really simple, if they're unlocked in a really simple way, which would just be, if they are present in the scene at the start of the game, then they are unlocked. So our store will just spawn them if they're unlocked at the start of the scene, and then if our script can find them in our scene, then they're unlocked. If our script can't find them in the scene, then they're not locked. So these two are unlocked, so they're going to be in our scene. I'll explain all that in a little bit. But so all we need to do is come and start writing our script. So we'll just clean up our brackets a little bit. Okay, so all we're really going to have in here is we're going to be checking what power-ups are present at the start of the game, and then we're going to be pulling them into a array of power-ups, and then we're going to be using that array of power-ups to then spawn them throughout the level. So basically this way we can check which ones are unlocked, like I was saying before, because only the power-ups that are unlocked will be present at the start of the level, but they are also the only power-ups that will go into the array of power-ups that then spawn your power-ups throughout the level. That should hopefully make a little bit more sense in a second, but we'll just get started with it. Okay, so we'll just start off by adding some public variables. So we'll start off by adding public game object, which will be an array. And this is going to be called our current power-ups, and it's just going to store all the current power-ups that are present at the start of the level. And then we're going to need a public game object that's going to be called our magnet, and one more which will just be called our coin times 2, and then we'll start with the main bit of scripting. So for now all this is going to be in the start, so we can just start off by going magnet. Actually, just to make this a little bit just a little bit more solid, we'll just make these into arrays, and we'll change them over to current. Because when we do a revive feature, this might become important, so we'll just do it like this. So if there are any present at the start, it'll still be fine. So in here, we're just going to put our current coins, and it's going to be equal to game object dot find with tag, and we'll put the tag in there in a second. We'll just copy it and change this one over to our magnet. Whoops. Yeah. So why is it complaining about this one? Could we write magnet running up here? Cool. So now that we have both of these being populated with whatever magnets are present whenever we start, we just need to be able to combine them into one array, because we want to be able to check what is there, but then we also want to put them all into one array so we can use that array for spawning them throughout the level. So to do that, we will, I suppose we'll start off with that. So just current power-ups, and this is going to be equal to, just need to remember how we do this a bit, to that dot, before we do this, we're going to need to add a new system, so using dot system dot LNQ. Why isn't it like that? But so basically, it's not a dot there, my bad. Yeah. So all that's going to allow us to do is use a function that will allow us to combine two arrays into one array, and that function is called concat. So down here we just need to go dot concat, and like I said, it allows you to merge it with another array. So the other array is going to be our current magnet, and it's as an array, so we need to go to array, so have a quick look at this. Got the 2. Yeah, so all this says is now this array up here is going to be equal to the contents of that array and this array. So we're combining 2 arrays and having them as one, which is really cool. So now that we have that, we will also just add the last little thing we need, which is, well, one other little thing we need, which is just our spawn points for our power-ups. So that's going to be an array of game objects. We won't make this one public, so we'll declare it as a game object down here, or as an array of game objects down here. And I'm just going to call it power-up spawn point, and it's going to be equal to game object dot find objects, because we're going to have more than one spawn point eventually, with the tag power up spawn point. Cool. So now that we have that as well, we can get to work with actually spawning them. Before we do that, we'll just quickly go and assign this. So we come back in, wait for it to load, and just add a new tag. It's going to be our power up spawn point. Assign it, then we can go back to our script. And so yeah, now we can see how many spawn points are in the current bit of the level that we have, and for each one of them we are going to spawn a random object out of this array. And this array contains all of the power-ups that were there when we started the game, and like I said, all the power-ups there when we start the game are only going to be the ones that are active in the store, which will be something we'll be dealing with later. But yeah, so now that we have it like that, we just want a for each loop. So just for each game object, and these game objects are going to be power up spawn points, and they are contained inside of the array, which is called power up spawn point. And so now for each spawn point that we find in this array, we're just going to be doing this. And what we want to do is just instantiate something from our current power-ups, because that's the array that contains all the power-ups that we can spawn. And we want to spawn a random one from that, so we'll just use a function called random.range, and the range is going to be between 0 and our current power-ups dot length. And we just want to spawn it at our power-up spawn point dot transform dot position, and with the same rotation as our power up spawn point transform dot rotation. And so why is instantiate being flagged? Let's just run through this quickly and have a look. So we have our current power up. Like, we want to instantiate from our current power up array. We want to instantiate a random object from that array, from the position from 0 in the array to the end of the array, which is the length. And we want to do it at the spawn point, that's our problem, dot transform dot position, and we want to do it at the spawn point dot transform dot rotation. And because this is in a for each, we're doing it at every spawn point that we can find currently in the level. So obviously this is going to have to happen in the update if we want to have multiple spawn points throughout our game. But in this episode, like I said, we're only going to do it at the start. So we only need to have this happen in the start function because there's only going to be one spot they can spawn, and that'll be at the very start of the level. So if we just save this and come back into our game, and then we'll open up these, which are all of our arrays, which we made public just so you can see what's going on. So as you can see, we have two different power-ups. One's our coin times 2, and one's our magnet. So if we come back over to here, and press play, we'll see that our current magnet equals 1 because we have one of them. Our current coin times 2 equals 1 because we have one of them. But our current power-ups equals 2 because we have one of each of them. So this is where we're spawning them from. And if we just come in, you'll see we have a magnet. But if we press play again, we get a magnet. Press play again, we get times 2. So that's random. So an easier way to show that would just be, to just copy that. Just place 4 of them. Now if we press play, we have 2 in every position. That's what's going on there, I believe. So if we just come back, grab that one, press play. Okay, so that's still happening. So why is that happening? So let's have a look at that. Okay, so this video was getting a bit long, so I just paused it and had a look. It was pretty simple. Basically, the problem is just because I put the script on the wrong thing. So we don't want the script to be on the power-up itself, the power-up spawn point itself. We want it to be on our UI controller, and we also just want to change our UI controller over to just being called our controller, because it's controlling a lot more than our UI now. So we'll come down and add our script onto here. And now, if we make a duplicate of this, we shouldn't see a problem, hopefully. I actually didn't test it, but it seems to be working fine. Cool. So that's all our problem was. It was just that it was finding itself, and then it was finding all these other objects, and it was just making a ridiculous amount of objects. But yeah, we just need that script to be on our controller, and then it will work perfectly with multiple spawn points. And as you can see, it does a random object out of the ones we have available. But so if we come in and just remove this tag, which will just be the same as if we deleted it, because now the script doesn't know it exists. Let's need some water. But if we just press play, now you'll see we'll only get coin magnets, because as far as the script's concerned, that's the only thing that is unlocked, because there isn't one of these at the start, because it can't find it from its tag. So that's how we're going to control the store, with just by having these at the start. And then when we press play, we'll have a coin magnet. We'll have the times 2 as well. Cool. So now that we have them, we can just delete all of them besides our first one again. Press play. And play the game. And now it's not working again. So let's have a look at the reason for that, just quickly. Okay, so the most likely problem is just going to be that this is in the wrong position, and it is. So we'll just change that over to being 0. So if I just change that back for a second, I'm going to 2, we can see that it is a little bit not in the line of the game, and that means seeing we're doing a distance check to check if our player comes within the distance of it, and seeing our distance check is 0.5 and this is 0.6 away, our player will never be able to be close enough. So if we just go to 0, it will make it in line with the game. So now if we press play, we can get our power-ups. Cool. So now that we have that, I might just run over the code quickly, and then that will be it for this episode. So if we just go back to Visual Studio, so in here, all we have is that we have some game arrays which are filled up with all of the coin magnets and ×2 coins that we can see at the start of the game, and then we are combining them into an array, and that array is just called current power-ups, and we're using that array to then spawn all of our power-ups throughout the level. And this just, like I said, allows us to only have the power-ups that are unlocked at the start of the level, so then they are the only ones the player can get throughout the game. And then besides that, in here we have another array of our power-up spawn points, and for each one of them we spawn a random power-up out of the array that we created. So that's it for that script. And in this one we made a few little changes. The first one was we just made it so that the magnet and the ×2 work off a 4 each now, so that you can have multiple ones in a scene and it will check the distance between each one and work properly. And we, besides that, also added the ×2, which is pretty simple. It's just checking if the ×2 is false, it does the normal thing. Otherwise, we're just sending 2 through instead of sending 1 through. And then we just copied basically the same timer, and we copied the same trigger. So that's all we really did in this episode, but I hope it helped out a lot. If it did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode, where we might be covering the store, or we might go into a little bit of power-ups, I'm not really sure yet. But yeah, I'll see you next time.